Okay.
All right. Good morning. My name is Michael, IT assistant at Bincom Dev Center. So today I'll be talking about role-based communities of practice. Um, First of all, this is my table of contents anyway. I'll introduce community of practice, speak about the origin, then we'll look at the elements of community of practice, and then we'll talk about role-based community of practice. Then we'll also look at how to organize a community of practice and the benefits as well. Then I would summarize and conclude. So, over the years, people have been learning to share their experiences with one another, coming together and speaking about the experiences in a particular field. Let's say doctors coming together, teachers coming together, or engineers coming together, just for the purpose of getting to know what their colleagues are doing in their different workplaces, trying to understand things that the principles they apply or the policies or the experiences they've had or issues they've had, just to know how to get better at their own and also how to tackle some of the issues they've been facing individually, So that's the whole concept of community of practice. So it's a group of people who share a common concern, a set of problems or an interest in a topic and who come together to fulfill both individual and group goals. All right. So it's not just about fulfilling it's not just about one person going there to gain. You would also have to impact to other people as well, the community in general. If there's something you have or an experience you think you'd like to share with others as well. It's not just about going there to listen to other people's experiences or tap from their own wealth of knowledge. If there is something you can contribute as well, you'd also contribute. That's how the community moves. That's how every community moves as well. So these COPs they often focus on sharing best practices and creating new knowledge to advance the domain of professional practice. Interaction on an ongoing basis is an important part of this. So people that have members of the community would need to keep interacting on a regular basis, to keep the relevance of the community. It's not about coming together once and then disappearing for a very long time, then coming back together. No, as long as that area of practice is in existence, you'd have to keep coming together, to share knowledge and understand best practices in that field. So this community of practice was coined by two guys. They were coined by two people, cognitive anthropologists, Jean Lave and Etienne Wenger, when they were studying apprenticeships as a learning model. The term referred to a community that acts as a living curriculum. You know what a curriculum is? It's like a guide of learning, a guide of a learning path. So the community itself acts as a curriculum because a lot of people come together, people with different ideas, people with different experiences. It's a bank of knowledge. So when they come together and, one person learns from person A learns from person B and person B learns from person A, that's people with different knowledges, people with different ideas and all that. So it's like a living curriculum. So once the concept was articulated, the researchers started seeing communities everywhere, even when no formal apprenticeship system existed. So this was like the first form of apprenticeship, community of practice. So I think that's what they're trying to say here. So moving on, these are the elements of community of practice. Basically, every community of practice has three core elements. The first is the domain, which is like a body of knowledge, like the area of knowledge. These people that come together, they're coming together because they are practitioners in a particular field. Let's say doctors coming together, that their domain is medicine. So that's what they're coming together to talk about. That's what they're coming together to speak about, to share their experiences. So community members have a shared domain of interest, competence, and commitment that distinguishes them from others. This shared interest creates common ground, inspires members to participate. All right. When you join a community of, let's say you're an architect and you join a community of other architects, a community of practice of architects, seeing members, seeing people who are in the same field as you, who are coming together to share knowledge as well, you would feel inspired to also share, to participate. If you know you're getting something from other people, then why not impart? Why not contribute your own little quota? So these people come together, they have a domain of knowledge, either be it a body of architects or engineers or developers, what have you. So their domain is that particular field in which they are practitioners. So the next element there is the community. Can you still hear me? Hello,
Yes,
can you
I
still hear
can.
me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So the next element there is community. So the notion of community creates the social fabric for enabling collective learning. Um, so how do I just, you know, how communities come together? Like people are inspired to come together. Like when you see that this is a lively setting, or this is a lively place to be, because people participate actively. You know, that sense of belonging that one feels when they join that particular body. You know, the notion of community creates that social fabric for enabling collective learning. Because if you're not comfortable in that place, I don't think you're going to learn. I don't think you're going to be able to also share knowledge. So when people are, you know, when they are on the same vibe, let me use that phrase, when they're on the same vibe, when they are actually feeling this to come together, like they feel, okay, this is something that should continue. Then the sense of belonging, that sense of community sets in. So that's another element of community of practice. So the third one there is the practice. Members are actual practitioners in this domain of interest and build a shared repertoire of resources and ideas that they take back to their practice. So these are the three core elements of the community of practice. The first is the domain, which is the area of knowledge. Second is the community, which is the coming together of members to, you know, participate interactively, and also it fosters collective learning. Then the third one there is the practice. Members are actual practitioners. It's going to be weird if you see a doctor in a COP of architects. To be very odd, like he'll be out of place. They'll be talking about architectural concepts, and doctor won't understand. Or maybe it's going to be odd as well to find an architect in a COP of doctors. The architect won't understand what they're saying. Maybe just a few basic things. You just understand some basic terms, heart, brain, all that. But when they get into their jargons, you'll be lost. So members are actual practitioners in that field. You have to be a practitioner in a particular domain to be part of that community. All right, moving on. Rule-based community of practice. So, like I said, community of practice is people coming together who share a common interest or idea, you know, to discuss and learn from one another. But then rule-based community of practice is a community that is formed by people who have similar roles in different teams. Let's say Scrum Masters coming together to form a community of practice, or back-end developers coming together to form a community of practice. These are people, these are roles, you know, these are roles of people in different fields. So they can come together to form a community of practice, just to understand, you know, to know what others who have similar roles as them are doing in their different teams, you know, to discuss some issues, just to be in tune with others, so that you know that when you're going back to your own team, to your workplace, or any other thing, you know that you've spoken with people with similar roles, you've learned from them, you've known, if I encounter this issue, this is something that I can do about it, or you've learned that there are different options of doing a particular thing, but according to what my fellow Scrum Master said, this is the best way to go about it. So people with similar roles come together to discuss best practices and all that. So according to what I have here, role-based community of practice is a type of community that is formed by people with similar roles in the different teams. Developers need to talk with other developers. Testers need to talk with other testers. Product owners need to communicate with their peers from other agile teams, and so on. So this is critical for leveraging the multiple experiences and different types of practical knowledge available from different people. That is what drives craftsmanship and continuous learning, facilitating the adoption of new methods and techniques. Right. So when you've spoken, or when you've met with people with similar roles as you, you get to understand that there are different ways of. It's not just there isn't just one way of doing a particular thing in the field. There are different ways. There are different methods or techniques that you can adopt, which would actually make the work easier for you. Maybe you've been going about it the very difficult way, but then when you come together and meet people of like roles, you get to understand that, okay, this is a better way of doing this. This is a better way of managing my team or motivating my team. This is something that I can actually try, and it will bring me results faster and good results as well. So yeah, that's the idea of role-based community of practice. People with similar roles come together to discuss with each other and, you know, find new techniques of methods of carrying out their job. Yep. So this is an example of, this image here is an example of rule-based community of practice. You see this one highlighted in orange. So that's orange. Yeah. So this is a COP of project managers / product owners. This one here is a COP of Scrum Masters. This here is a COP of DevOps intertwined with a COP of test engineers. So which means there are some things that they have in common. DevOps, developers and test engineers. This is another COP of UX designers, and this is a COP of systems engineers. So mind you, this entire group might be one team, but then like this first is this a row column? This row here might be one team, might be an agile team. This second here might be another agile team, and this here might be another agile team. But since these teams have people with similar roles, they can come together and form communities of practice to discuss with one another and find out better ways of doing things, new techniques and all that, so that whenever they are carrying out their projects or whenever they are working, that I've learned 1 or 2 things from other people who have similar roles, and this is the best way we can achieve this. Yeah. So Scrum Masters from different agile teams may form a community of practice to exchange practices and experiences in building highly productive agile teams. Yeah, so this is how the community of practice is organized. These are the different stages of development. First of all, someone will come up with the idea saying, this would be a nice thing to do. That's committing. Someone decides this COP would be a good idea or a good thing to do and sets out to do it. The next stage there after conception is starting up. So the purpose is framed, members are selected or recruited, and rules are negotiated. Then the COP gets into action, like it starts operating, people start coming together, meeting and all that, sharing knowledge, solving problems, building skills, and improving their practice. Then the next is the winding down. The value of membership and the value to the organization diminish over time as problems are solved and the practice improves. Yeah, but there are some communities of practice that don't lose their relevance. Say, okay, as an engineer now, we have 2 bodies. We have the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and we have the Korean, which is the community of the regulation of engineers in Nigeria. That's Korean. So these bodies don't lose their relevance as long as that practice, that field of expertise is still in existence. People will still be coming together to discuss new concepts of engineering and new, better ways of doing things. So not all communities of practice go through these 2 stages, the winding down and the shutting down. While some, which might be just temporary, like Scrum Masters coming together to discuss a particular project, like say there's a big project and there are different agile teams that are working on that particular project. And Scrum Masters decide to come together for the purpose of, discussing better ways of managing their teams for the purpose of that project. By the time that project is done and dusted, those communities of practice should definitely go through these 2 stages, winding down and shutting down. So that's the life cycle of community of practice. That's how community of practice is organized. Yep. So these are the benefits of community of practice. The first is the social capital. How I think the best, or in a layman term, social capital can also mean acquiring connection, because when you meet different people with different ideas who are also in the same field as you, and you get to understand their different perspectives of that particular field of knowledge, and you strike up a relationship with these people, you're building social capital. So all the plain English, I think that's just what it means. Through informal connections that participants build in their communities of practice, and in the process of sharing their expertise, learning from others and participating in the group, members are said to be acquiring social capital. When you build a relationship with these people, and maybe there is something you like to do in the future, but then you don't have full knowledge of that. And then you remember there is someone I met during the days of this community of practice. Maybe let's say that community of practice has shut down, but then you remember during the days the community of practice was alive, you made some connections, like you struck up some very strong relationships with these people who might be higher than you in that, who might be on a higher level. than you in that particular body of knowledge, and then you might decide to hit them up. That's social capital, because you know that you have some people to refer to when you have a problem that you don't know how to solve. You always have people that you can call up and they'll be able to assist you. That's one benefit of the community of practice. Then the next one there is knowledge management. Communities of practice, the sole purpose of communities of practice is to share knowledge and all that. So when this information, when these ideas and information, if they are properly documented, if they are properly collected, documented and archived, and they can be assessed for later use, knowledge has said to be managed properly. Because according to what I have here, knowledge management is seen primarily as the problem of capturing, organizing, and retrieving information, invoking notions of databases, documents, query languages, and data mining, according to Thomas, Kellogg, and Erickson in their 2001 publication. So the community of practice, collectively and individually, is considered a rich potential source of helpful information in the form of actual experiences. In other words, best practices, because people come together to share their experiences, and if there had been some consequences those actions they took towards a particular endeavor had on them, they'll also share. Then you know that if this kind of problem arises, this is the best way to do it. This is what we should not do. So if these experiences and wealth of information are properly documented, if they can be, I'm looking for the right phrase, if they can be properly saved, or let me use the word here. If they can be properly documented and archived and can be assessed for later use, then knowledge has been said to be managed efficiently. So that's another benefit of community of practice, because it helps knowledge management. Yep. So community of practice is not a new phenomenon. As long as people have been learning and sharing experiences, communities of practice has been in existence. People have been coming together right from even before some of us existed. People have been coming together to share knowledge and experience. So for the fact that some people might be hearing this for the first time today doesn't mean that community of practice just started existing. No. So as long as people have been learning and sharing their experiences through storytelling, community of practice has been in existence. So these COPs can be in virtual or physical settings, because most of these members, they're in different places. You can have a community of practice with members in different areas of the world. It doesn't mean that members have to be co-located. They don't have to be in the same location. So then they would have to form a VCOP, that's a virtual committee of practice, to collaborate online using either Zoom, WebEx, or any other digital meeting software. But it can also be physical, in the sense that members would meet in the lunchroom, at work, field setting, or other environmental setting. So be that as it may, virtual or physical, the goal of COPs remain to share knowledge and experience around a particular domain in order to foster learning and encourage best practices. Yeah, so that's all I have for you today. I'll be taking questions now. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hello,
Mike. Yes, you're on. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So, does the COP, do they have like a management, like to keep things in order and organized and everything? Is there like a management?
Yes. Like I said, when you're organizing a community of practice, members are selected, rules are negotiated. So there has to be a management. There has to be someone who is in charge. And I think these roles over time, they switch hands. It doesn't have to be one person that would be, let's say, the head of, or like the president of this community for as long as that community exists. So definitely there's management. Roles are negotiated, like you said in my slide. So there has to be a chain of management or administration for a particular community of practice. Just to have some sort of order. Yeah. So it's definitely management for a community of practice.
All right, thank you. And also, there are times that we have some members in some community that I don't know if it matters though, but there are some members that don't really contribute. They just keep quiet, no
Yeah,
matter
yeah.
what is going on, they don't want to contribute. They just want to be there to just observe. How about in those kind of situations?
Well, you wouldn't say you pick those members out if they have come to learn. Let's say they are newbies in that particular knowledge. Definitely a point would come when they've gained enough experience and they would like to share. But yeah, those kind of members exist as well, and they are called um there is a particular term they are called. I don't I quite can't remember it now. But it has to do with them being like they are not very active members. All they do is just come to learn. Yeah, but then they exist. They're also there, they're part of the community. But with time, those kind of members, they gain more experience from their work and then they come back and share, okay, this is what I've learned so far. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Okay, the last question. Thank you. So different people's like this one is just like I just want to confirm if I heard you right. So different people with different roles can come to form the COP as long as they have like similar things like
Yeah, similar rules.
okay, all right. That's all the question I have.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask you?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, let me just give you one question. What are the elements of community of practice? There are three
Elements.
elements. Yeah, three elements of community.
Okay. I think we have I can only remember one. I think
Okay,
startup.
just one. Huh? I didn't hear you.
Startup, if I'm correct.
Oh, no. So the three elements of cognitive practice are domain, which is the area of knowledge, the knowledge area. You have community, and then you have practice. Yeah.
Practice.
Yes, practice. Practice
Yes,
is the third.
I think that was what you were. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was a very